Yeah, so I welcome you all to this channel to this session. Um, in our last session, we actually spoke about or treated. Let me share just reminders of what we did last week. We did some number of things last week, looking at DOM manipulations. How we actually talked about the DOM document object model. We were able to get the some of our interact with our some of the elements we defined in HTML, and we're able to override some content like we did here, setting the in text content of our profile name. So those using we talked about using query selector. You could use also select by the class name or by ID as well. Yeah, so just to let us know, recap on what we did last week. So this week we'll actually be delving into what we call JavaScript asynchronous programming, looking at promises and from. So that will help us to understand uh how things work basically. So before then, I would like to let me see, let me bring up this screen. Yeah, you're familiar with this screen here. So we updated this through the DOM, if you can remember last week. So I just want to explain what, at least, can someone explain to me what's different between synchronous and asynchronous? Do anybody know what the difference are? For the synchronous and the asynchronous process, what do you understand by that? Anyone? Yeah, asynchronous from one by one. So how about async? What does it do? Is your repeated async multiple? Okay, one. What do you mean by async multiple? I'm not too clear about that. Anyway, thanks for trying. So just to demonstrate, okay, thank you. Doesn't go in order. It depends on. Yeah, so just to demonstrate this using the console. Yeah, I just want to do. Let's imagine we have console.log. Just a quick demonstration. So we have we start, for example, we have one that calls start. Then we have another log that says middle. And we have the last one that says end. So this, in what order does this run? Does anyone know? So this, for async, it runs from top to bottom, just from top to bottom. So that means if you run this now, you see that this should be the first and this should be next, and the end should be the end. Yeah, like we expected it to do. So in terms of asynchronous, so how do we demonstrate this using a sync, for example? Imagine we have the same, let me couple of these. We have the same, and but this time around, we have let's put the kind of let's set the timer. Hit timeout, then staking function, arrow function. So this is just a timer. It's wait. We're telling it to wait a bit. So let's say console command a log. Then let's say. It has finished waiting. So we're setting a kind of a timer for it to wait for 1 second. Where's the closing? This is this, and we want to so just wait for about 2 seconds, I think. So imagine we have something like this. The first thing I will expect to print out will be the start. The next thing will be most likely end. While this will be an operation that happens last. So let's see what happens. So there's an syntax error there. So let's see why that is happening. So we have set timer. We have this. We have this one console.log. Oh yeah. Well, can someone tell me what is missing there? Anyone knows? Yeah. Thank you. I'm just looking at the chat. That's what it said. The code is missing. So that's good. I'll go back and fix that. Yeah. So like we said, it started start and so you didn't wait for this to complete before printing the end, which is what we expect it to be. And at the end of the day, we have that it waited for about 2 seconds, then printed, finish waiting. So this is like an example of an asynchronous, like it doesn't keep the order. So it doesn't wait for the imagine waiting for an order from a restaurant. You you the other customer that needs to be served, they serve the other customer whose food are done or they're ready or their package are ready. While you maybe it's still in process, you still so the process that async happens, other operations processes happen while waiting for this to be done. Yeah, so just a quick demonstration. So it's easy. We're going to talking about promises and forms. So with forms, we're all familiar with we filled form online before where we input our data. So collect forms are used to collect data from user or a web page, originally designed to send data to the server. Many now interact with JavaScript in the client, as in this lesson. So we have to define a form. You can always have this tag form which contain the forms. The label, like the labels, like they describe what the field you want to enter. Man, you say, okay, enter your name, your first name, blah blah blah. So the label is what describe the field. So we have several input type. So the several input type, the input, this is like can be a text. We have a text box, select, radio button, or check boxes, too many other input types. Then we have the validation. You can add validation. Is it required field? If it's required, then you need to type in at least something into the box before it to allow you submit the form. So we have the ID matching label, ID matching label for properties as well. So basically, asynchronous is just like it's an execution. Asynchronous execution is powerful tool in JavaScript. There are many JavaScript functions which trigger external callback functions. So add, I'm sure you're familiar with this already. Add an event listener. We've just demonstrated something like this. The set timeout is like an asynchronous. They use callback function. So they're trying to talk about async and concurrency. So concurrency is not necessarily parallelism. So concurrency does not mean that everything happened at the same time, parallel. That's what parallelism means. So when things are happening at the same time, it can be that, okay, this is happening first, then the next one is happening next. So in the order of execution of the synchronous callback function is not known, like we said. So we don't know the order it will be executed. It's actually based on how quick you get a feedback or a response from the resource. Imagine trying to call an endpoint to retrieve an image or profile image. So it's until it receives the image that it will execute the callback, the DSync callback, basically. So when an event triggers a callback, it is placed in the queue for execution. So when index index.js is loaded, the code executes, possibly setting up a signal call function such as event listener. So I'm going to deal with demonstrate what an event listener is now coming soon. So after that, individual call function are triggered asynchronously. So you don't get an event has been received, then it makes the callback function is being will be triggered. So now for promise, imagine promise is like it's just like sorry, where are you? Yeah. So promise is like imagine your promise just like you promise someone. So maybe you don't have it at the moment, but you promise that you give them. Basically, promise means a value we do not have. Maybe we don't have the value yet, but we'll have it later. So basically, that is what the promise is in JavaScript. So then it has three states. We have the pending state, fulfilled and rejected. So pending is when it's waiting for to get the event or the callback to be triggered. Fulfilled is where okay, this is successful, and rejected is where maybe there's a network error, one trying to retrieve something. Maybe there's internet issues, so it will be rejected. So we have the then method that which specify callback function. So we have the resolve and reject, like I said. When it is resolved, mean maybe there was a successful response from the backend services or wherever you're trying to retrieve a content from, and rejected if there's a network issue or a bad request or whatever. Yeah, so we have it's going to execute on state change. So also we have some chainings, like you could have a process. This is my promise. Then you could have a then, and a then, and a then you could have a cache. Cache is basically used to handle exception within the process of the promise. So the next then execute after previous next, resolve, reject. The cache can be chained to handle error, like I said. So you chain in your cache to be able to handle the errors. So handle synchronous result inside callback function. Avoid temptation to try to use await to make behaviors async. So await can only be used inside a sync function. So the sync function themselves behave asynchronously. So I think so like I said, we could just quickly demonstrate this and see how that works actually. So once again, let's go with my browser. We'll clear this out again. So basically we said promise if you have any question, please don't hesitate to stop me at any point. Um so you have the promise state we have the pending state, the fulfilled state, and we have the rejected state. So there are several ways to create a promise. One way to create a promise is, let me see. Cons, why can't I type today? Say my promise. Then is equal to new, we can use the keyword new promise. Promise, yeah. And inside this, we can have a resolve and a reject. Resolve and a reject, which we now kind of use our arrow function. Then we could code braces. Yeah. So let's try what we tried before. We could use the set intervals, so set timeout. Then we could just use the arrow function though. Then so we can use this resolve. Resolve is actually used to resolve success when is a success or something. So now if there's a success, we want to say data loaded or something. And this is supposed to happen just for 2 seconds. And we could have, this is it, this return undefined, but we can proceed by having access to a promise, say my promise, sorry, promise dot then. This is what we call the chaining. So let's say it then what will it do? After we execute this promise, call the callback, then what should happen? Then we want to see the result. We want to log the result of the promise. So the then say result, need the result to be logged. Let's do console log dot console log and the result. Yeah. So like we say, so this is a promise. What is it promising us? It's promising us that it's going to return back a data loaded. But now we're trying to assess our promise. After it's loaded, then we need to get the result. The result is now what we logged, and we got the result. So we can also use it to cache. For example, if there's an error, you can say my promise. For example, I'll just copy this again. To do this, after the then we could do a cache. Think this cache, like we said, is used to handle errors. We could say error. Then what happened to the error? We want to also log in case there's an error coming back from the from our promise. Yeah. So basically, if there's an exception coming back, you should see that it logs the error. It will catch the error or the exception and log it. But at the moment, we're only resolving, we're not rejecting at the moment. So what we can do to test it, I think we're still going to just test how this work later anyway. So just to just to test this, I think it worth testing it. I was just going to bring this guy again. So we see how exception are handled. Oh, let me clear this out here. So we have resolve and reject. We have like set timeout. It actually says, okay, we want to, this is the const success. Let's say we want to know when it is successful. Say, let's just try a simple math operation. Say when random value, for example, is greater than, let's say 0.3, and if it is, then we have, oh, sorry, not yet, don't do this. Let me close this again. So we want to add a conditional statement here. If it is successful, that's when we resolve it. If it's successful, we resolve it. And when it's else, we reject it. So we call reject this time with the exception. Let's say the exception is server error or something. Server error. Try again. Neither. Okay. So now we have this. This is what we have. I'm going to execute it. Now, I think we've had something similar before. Yeah, something like this. So this is what we need. The promise now. After the promise has finished running, waited for 2 seconds, it's going to execute this line and say, okay, is this generate a random number Is it greater than 0.3? If it's yes, then it will always return data loaded, or we could change it to something like maybe sent successful or whatever. But for now, let's read that data loaded. Else, if the value is less than 0.3, then it will say error, server error. So let's see how that works. So now we have a promise, and we say then get the result. The result will be this. Then we are not catching an exception. When it throw this reject, it catches an exception and load it here. So this one, I'll just say, okay, I'll try this multiple times just to see if let me try it. Trying to see if we can get a case where it should be, sorry, 1 second, let me change the value so we can see how that play out. So I'll change this to maybe a 10, let's say, and see again. Error. Do we see an error? We see that the value that was generated might most likely not greater than 10. We'll try again and see. This time around, we get a lot of service error but what we can do, we can also log the value that was generated. And so we can see what was generated and see the value if it was actually greater than the value we wanted to be greater than. So basically, that's how this. I just want to demonstrate how the cache works, so we can see that it cuts the exception or the error and logs the value. Error, try again later. So that's how that works. You can see that at this point it was pending, it become fulfilled, and to that three stage pending, fulfilled, and rejected. Yeah. All right. So um, what else can we talk about here? So in any questions so far? Any question, anyone?
Oh, Hassan, I had a question. Why did you, I mean, you use promise because set timeout it has to be called asynchronous. Is, is that the reason? I mean, you, that you have to wrap this call in the promise. If you could use set timeout without the
Directly?
promise,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Set timer, like I said, is a promise on its own. It's a promise, like the add event listing also is a promise. We could do that with the promise. Like you said, we could just do this without wrapping it in a promise. But because you just want to def demonstrate what a promise is on itself. So this is how to define. You can also create your own promise. So this is how, just to demonstrate to you how promise is being created. So if
got
you
it.
let me see, yeah, exactly. Just to demonstrate to you how promise is being created. If you go into set timeout, you see. I wish you can see the
You can basically call any method like this within the promise, right?
exactly.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you. So before going to, I would like to demonstrate how, like, imagine you have a like how request. Imagine you have a form and you submit the form. You should expect a response back. Okay, was it submitted successfully, or was it not submitted successful? I think which is what uh, we just kind of demonstrated anyway. If you imagine you have a form, there will be some operation that happen within the function, and based on that, it will return a success or a reject or an error. So basically, that's what the promise is basically. So we like to demonstrate this. Let's see how we can update our profile. Maybe just have something below that says and message me or send message or whatever. So you type your name and also you be able to type in the message you're about to send, then you hit the button to submit it. So based on that, let's see what we can do with that. So bring up my IDE again. Yes, so let me see. Where do we stop? Okay, we stop at this. So the first thing to do will be to maybe have a new section, I believe. So let's define a new section just below the resource. Um, so we have a session. Yeah, the session this time around we can give the class. Come on, you can type. Let's give it message session or message or whatever. Let's get the message. What do you think? Let's just call this message session. Then no, I'm not using that. So we can add, come on, H3, like an H3 tag. Come on, this auto completion is capturing things for me. Okay, let me say H3 tag. Let's say send the message, and we have we need to add a form. It's already trying to do form for me, but this is a form. We add an ID, say message form. I think this is listening to my conversation. And just need input type down here, basically something like a name. Yeah, I need to type it to text and I can give it an ID, name input, something like that. Name input. The name is maybe I don't need the name, but yeah, I can just leave the name out for now. Then the place so that enter your name, or let's say enter your name, enter your name. So it's required. If it's required, it's required to always have the value in it. So I've had a text area, something like a text area, message input, enter your message, and also required. Then the last thing I need to have is a button that you need to be clicked. Let's say yeah, button. I'll just say send. The submit type, and let's say send. So if you go back to a form, you see, is it this one? Yeah. So we have it this just like this. Hopefully we try to style it a bit. Let's see. So the next thing to do will be, okay, I think the next thing we want to add is the status. We want to also keep track of the status of a message when it is sent, just to display something to the user or for the user. So let's say we have in a paragraph, or and give it an empty paragraph and give it a status. We can manipulate the DOM from the JavaScript side later. So this will just load the response of the message, basically. Yeah. So, but I would have loved to. I think I already have a style to handle this. I'll just copy and paste it for now. You can look at it from in the GitHub if you want, but just because we don't have enough time to run this, I'll get I think I already have something that we can use. 1 second. So let's see how this look like here. Let me take this to the right. Is this CSS? Yeah. So basically, this is how it looks like. So you can type in your message. If you did not type in, you have a message prompting you to fill up your required field. So you need to type in your name, say this, and you need your help, something like this. Then we kind of send, and at the moment, what do you observe when you click on send, it kind of refresh the page, which is not ideal on it. So we see how we can handle that later. So the next thing we want to do is now we need to select this from JavaScript. That's the DOM. We have let's see. So we want to select. I think we added what do we had? We added the message form, and the status. So those are the two things we want to get. So we have const say message form. I think did I disable this sort of compilation? So also we have want to start the status. This let's call it status element, which is our status. And now we need to handle the form summation. We need to handle the form summation. So what do we need to handle this form summation? So what we need to do is find our message form. We need to add an event listener, just like trying to describe for me here. So message form there, we need to have the add event listener. So what do we do? What would this do basically? So basically for now, let's see if this is clicked, want to change the value of status, which is the paragraph we added here. So want to set the text context or the text content. Remember we did something similar at the top here. So we want to do, sorry, status element yeah, the message sent successful or something like this. I think this is complaining. I need to close the curly bracket and the bracket. Come on. Yep. So this is still simple. If you try to submit a form now, let's say added p coding something, then I just send. So we can see that with the form stop refreshing one, and we can see that our message say, oh, message sent successfully. So this is why did the form stop refreshing? Is because of this event prevent default. If I comment out this and try to do the same thing again, see that there's a refresh of the page, which is not looking in terms of user experience. That's not what we wanted. So we just revert that and say just random, yeah, message sent successful. So that's just one step ahead. Now, if we want to imagine we want to simulate a fake request that okay, it made the call to the maybe a server somewhere. Sorry. So let's say it makes just to simulate that. So what do we need? We've done something similar. I think we just need to add a new function or within our event listener. After this one, the first thing we need to do is we need to have three states when this message is being sent. Let's say message sending. We change this to message sending. So then what do we need? We want to simulate if let me have a fake request. Let's call it fake request. Fake request. So we don't have this function yet. I'm going to I think it's similar to what we had. I'm going to define this function somewhere here. So fake request, you just want to do the same thing like we did while doing the console. Did I still have the fake request in the console? Yeah. I think something like this, if I can remember. Yeah. So let me take out this one. Then call it the function. Remember, before you can create a function, you need to define it. Call it a function, and so the function, what will it do? We want to sorry, return a new promise for us with the resolve and reject, something like this. Yeah. Okay, so just to simulate this, we have just similar to what we did here. So the math random, if the value is greater than 0.5, then just say it's a successful message. And if it's less than, just say it's a failed request. So try again later. So this we have our function defined, and then what we need to do is to chain it. Then we can use the then to get the response of the or catch the exception basically. So we can have the response. This is a response. So the response will be this one. Because we are returning message sent successfully, so we want the rest. We are changing the status element to the response. If it failed, we also want it to return to display this for us. So that's what we want to do with the cache, like we did here. I think we've demonstrated that before. So use the cache to get the error, and you what this message from how do you say it? Okay, I think this is nowhere close. Is it okay? 1 second. This is a promise. This is there's a missing. I think closing bracket. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So this event listener we do after the submit button has been clicked. It will initially set it to send the message, and when the response is returned, we set the message back to message sent successfully. In case there's an exception trying to receive the value from the server, then we set the value to be the typical way we can also do is using an alert, say, okay, alert showing, oh, this is the status of the message of your request, or let's make it simple for now. So now we have these, I will just, my name is my name, and happy coding, come on. So we see that it started with sending message, and because we had a time like a delay of 2 seconds, then the request will get into the function there, calculate, generate random value, and compare if the value is greater than 0.5. If it's greater than 0.5, then it returns this. If I try it again, let's see again. I just want a case where it says it's not successful again. Maybe hopefully I get one. Or else I have to increase the value. Yeah. So now we have a case where it says failed because the generated value might most likely be less than 0.5. Yeah. So that's what I want to demonstrate for us. And any questions so far before, like I mentioned, I also want to talk about Fetch API um, before the close of today, yeah, if possible. Any question? No question? Yes, no. I didn't see any feedback on chat or all right. Okay. So okay, thank you. Yeah, just to delve into another part, imagine we've tried to simulate a fake request using this. We send a fake request and we able to get our request and all. So now there is another part of this which is using the fetch API. So far we've pretended to contact the server. What we did there is like contacting the server somewhere, sitting somewhere. But this is like faking the request using the set timeout and all. So we actually contact a real server on the internet using the fetch API. The fetch API see like, okay, this is like a library that we use to communicate to maybe a server, a backend service sitting somewhere. So the first example, before we go ahead, I will show you what we can use to mock requests. I will go to this website, JSON, yeah, placeholder. Here, this is a mock server. So what it does, or what it provides us with, it provides us with some ready to use backend service. Although it's still mock, but we still see the concept where we have to make an external API call to get some data and process it in our application. Imagine this is just a very simple one. So imagine this is the example I just want to demonstrate anyway. They actually use fetch, which is the fetch API. You provide the URL. You could also provide the method, is a get a post. And this is the chaining. The first chaining get the response and convert it to a JSON. The next chaining got the JSON and log it to the console. So this is basically what we want to talk about. So we'll be using this and we will most likely be focusing on the post. So this is like the post. If you want to get a post of one, if you want to post, get all the posts. This is the endpoint you call the get request. If you want to post to it, like submit a form or whatever, you use the post. So I'm going to demonstrate this. Let's use let me just copy what they have here and we change. Oh, we just type. Let's copy this, or I could just copy the first and then. And here we could do, let me spread. Yeah. So this is the to do, but in our case, remember I mentioned I need to use the post. So I will change the endpoint to the post instead of it to do. I don't need to get to do, I need the post. So I need the first post. And what would this do? This will help us. We don't need to convert to JSON. We just need to log, for example, to a console log, and we see what the response is. So this is the response. Can you see the response?
Yep, thank you.
Yep. So this is what it looks like. Now it's returned 404. Why did it return 404? It's so 404 means I hope you're familiar with this response code. 404 means that is not able to fetch the resource, basically. We go back to documentation, we say that what is missing, we use post instead of posts with s. I think we use post. So I'm going to take off this again. But we're supposed to get the 200. 200 means that okay, we got the successful response. Yep, like I said, it's now 200. We got a successful response from the server, and I think this should have typically just have the expected content. 200 response body, and let me just use the same example so you can see what can convert it to JSON and log it as well. But this time, just want to change this again. Don't forget to do this posts s. We should get the expected value. So look at if you go to the using the URL here, just to verify that we got the exact thing. So we're expecting to get username one, ID one, the title, and the body. So now we have just like the same thing. We got the same thing, ID, the title, and the ID. So this is what a fetch API is. It actually helps us to communicate on external server or backend services. So in our own case, what we want to do is post this. This is what we want to post, not a get. So what we're going to be doing is we want to post this and get the response back from the server. So what are we going to do to achieve this? So fetch, remember fetch also is also a promise. So fetch is a promise on its own, and we wait for the response to get back and we log it. So so we just need to achieve this. I think we just need to, let's say 1 second. We just need to update our event. So I'm going to take this away again. We don't need a fake request anymore. So now we're going to be using the fetch. Remember we want to use the post. We are not using the get. Get. Hopefully you understand what the post and the get is. I don't. A get is like you want to retrieve something from the server. A post is used to update a content either in the database, like a put and a patch is similar. Put is just to update, and post is to create a new entry in the database. Put is used to edit an existing entry, for example, and then the first ID, which is also similar to patch. Patch is like partial update, and the delete is used to delete an entry in the database as well. So to explain this, I need this the same URL, I need JSON this. So we need to specify the URL. Come on, did something just close? Where is my Visual Studio? Did I close it by mistake? 1 second. Okay, something happened wrong there. Sorry. I don't know. I think it closed by itself. So sorry about that. Okay, I think we'll proceed now. So we can have the URL. Which resource? The resource we want to have access to is the posts. Remember, which is the posts. And what do we need from the post? So we need to define the 1 second. We need to define the method. The method is what can someone help me? The posts we've seen. Then we also need to define, maybe we need the header, not really, but we can also define an header. By default, all headers are as a content type of JSON application. Content, sorry. Content type and say JSON application, application, JSON. Yeah. Now, what do we? So for a get, we did not specify an item we want to send. In our case, for a post, it expects a request body. The request body is, in this case, would be the name and the message. So we need to construct our body also. Our body is like what we are trying to send to the server. So we can do JSON stringify, and specify the name. We need the name. We have a name, which is, remember our name is from, okay, we can also get it directly anyway. So we can use the document from the DOM document or query selector. What is the name? I think it's the name input here. Yeah, name input. So we can use the name input and dot the value, because the value that we need to send is a value. And come on. Yeah. And we need to send the message as well. Send message, and we can also get the message from a DOM message.query. And I think the message is let me see. Message input. So come back here, add the message input, then dot value. Yep. So basically, what would this do? This will send in the name and the message to this server, post it to the server, but we specify the post request and we specify the header that this is a JSON. So we always send the JSON representation to the server. So what do we need to do next? If this send it to the server, it's expected to come back with the response. So we have we can chain it to the response. The first thing will be the response front. Then what do we want to do? We can log. No, we are not. We just want to remember. We can just similar to what we saw there. We convert it to. Come on, where are you? Yeah, convert it to JSON. Then we chain it again. We add a chain. Come on. Dot. Then now this will give us our actual data after converting to JSON. It will give us our actual data, and this data we can remember what we want to achieve is to set the value of our paragraph based on the response, like we did with the fake request. So now what do we want to do? We want to set the status. Our status to be, what did we do here before? We call it status element, remember? Our status element to be text area, text content, which will be message. You can do this message sent successfully. Yeah, and we can also set the. I think we are added the style. We added this. Okay, did I have this style called? No, I don't have it there. So we can. I think that's sufficient for that. And we can then, if it's successful, we can actually just reset our form. So message form dot reset. Reset. Come on. Okay. Then remember, we can also have a case where there's an error. So we can catch the error. Catch. Add a cache to it. And we have our arrow function. Then we can also change the status of our element to be, this time is gone. Maybe a network error, try again. Yeah. So let's try. I think it's worth to try. Let's try this and see how it behaves. So I've had my name, and API coding. So we see that it's sending the error message. I think we want to show how. So what happened with this one? Let me see. Let me refresh. Oh yeah, sorry, because my ID restarted, so I need to bring up this again. So I think it's a palette live. Yeah, again. All right. So we're back to this one. So just want to see you see it will make the call. You should see the call in the network tab, I believe. We can do my name, RP coding. So what do we see? Is it this one? On caught exception, there's no a function. Okay, so let's see what that is. So we have this one, response to JSON. So you're saying response to JSON is not a function. I think we did something similar on this one. Yeah, response, get the response. Once again. I think this should be This should be after the fetch, I believe. Should it not be? Yeah, this should be after we, yeah, exactly. This should be after we fetch the results, then we should be able to access the response. So let's try again and see. My P, just P, yeah, you see that it makes the call, and it came back successful. I could actually just log it in the console, so we see that. Come on. Let's have the log here, maybe. Console log, log our data, and we could log the exception in case there's an exception. Console the log error. Yep. So let's try again. Let's just put random things there. Yeah, so it came back with this is the data, it came back, it posted it and generated ID. So when an entry is added with database, it will always generate an ID for us. So this is the ID. So if we try, let's try a new one. So it's always return an ID of 101 because this is typically a mock, just to demonstrate how a real server should behave. And one more thing, one way to experiment the error case would be maybe the case where we try to post to a wrong URL, for example. I updated this from post. I removed the S, so let's see what happened with that. Because that resource might not be present. So it says, did it say sent successfully? It was empty because it says 404. I'm just trying to find a way to maybe a bad. It typically this is 404 and it's returning an empty response and not an error. I was thinking because it's mock, it will return at least an error. So there's no way to, okay, let's try something like this and see. Just want to see if we can simulate a failure. Let's see. Yep. So we can see that with this, we're able to simulate the failure. Network error, try again. And this is the actual error. This is the actual, I said request with get method cannot have body. So that this is the error and say the request is, because it's not a get, we are sending a body and it's failing. So it's expected the endpoint expects a post. So that's why. Yep. So this worked for us. So basically this is just to demonstrate what the what's it called? The fetch API does. So which is typically what we're going to cover in the next session because I will not be available next week. I just thought of covering it in today's session. So if you have questions, please let me know. I'm going to push this to GitHub, and if you want to take a look at it, so you can take a look as well. Any questions so far?
Nope. Thanks so much, Hassan.
Yeah, no problem. Anyone else? Yep, good. Thank you. Thanks for jumping into this session. So hope to see you in the next two session, not next week. So I'll be away next week. Thanks a lot. Do enjoy the rest of your week. Yeah. Cheers. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Hassan. We'll miss you.
Thanks a lot.
Take care, everybody.
Yeah.